Today, Elmer and the Dragon, chapters 3 and 4, the Sandbar, and the Island. The fog rolled along the sandbar and out over the water, and suddenly Elmer shouted, "There! Behind you! Look at the pretty little green island!" "But Elmer, I can't move." "Oh, Elmer, I hurt all over." The dragon grunted and groaned and strained and struggled, but he was too stiff to move at all. "Elmer, do you really see dry land not far off?" "Nice, near, dry, green land, and the water's shallow all the way." "Are you sure you can't move?" "I'll try again." "How stupid! I can't even see the land after waiting here for it all night long in the soaking wet water," complained the dragon, glaring at the miles of ocean before him, which was all he could see. Elmer walked around the dragon's head and pretended not to notice that he was crying. "Elmer, I guess I'm not much of a dragon. A little storm comes along and forces me down, and I stand in a little water for a little while, and it makes me so stiff that I can't move a single muscle." "That's not at all true," said Elmer. "It was a big storm, and you stood in a lot of cold water for a very long time. And besides, you're only a baby dragon. You're not used to flying long distances. And just as soon as the sun dries you off, you'll be unstiff again. Have another lollipop." "Thanks, Elmer. But you'd better get unstiff pretty quick, because the tide will come in and you'll be up to your stomach in water again." "No, no," whimpered the dragon. "Well, I'll hang on your neck and see if it will bend," suggested Elmer. He jumped up and caught the dragon's neck. He dangled for a moment, and then both he and the neck thumped down on the sand. "Ouch," groaned Elmer and the dragon. "Now, can you see the island between your legs?" The dragon carefully curled his head under to look, and then he shouted, "I see it now, Elmer. It's really there. What a lovely little dry island. Now, help me limber up my right front leg." Elmer pulled very hard on the dragon's right front leg until it would bend. Then he worked on the left back leg and the left front leg and the right back leg, and started all over again with the right front leg. At last the dragon could turn around and walk, but now it was hot, and the steam rose up all along the dragon's back as the sun beat down on his water-soaked wings. Elmer started for the island, and the dragon hobbled slowly behind. They went along the sandbar as far as they could, and then waded into the shallow water. Elmer was still wearing his black rubber boots, but the dragon muttered, "I hate oceans," as he splashed along stiff-leggedly. Finally they came to a pebbly beach of the tiny island. Above them rose a cliff, and green vines hung over the edge, making a pool of shade. Elmer and the dragon sat down and ate 15 tangerines, leaving 43 more in the knapsack. "I wonder who lives on this island," said Elmer, wiping his mouth on his sleeve. I think that's a path over there. Come on, let's go exploring." "I am afraid I'll have to rest a while longer," said the dragon. "My wings are still wet and heavy, and I'm awfully hungry. Tangerine peels really don't fill me up, and I'm terribly thirsty, and maybe I'm going to faint." "Then you rest here in the shade while I go to look for food and water," said Elmer, and he picked up his knapsack and went off to follow the little path. The Island, Chapter 4. The path wound between boulders on the beach and then rose steeply through a crack in the cliff. Elmer scrambled up, bracing himself between the rock walls until he could find the next toehold. Just as he thought he could go no further, he found an old log ladder going straight up to the top of the cliff. Somebody must live here, he thought, as he climbed up the last rung and sat down. All around him rose beautiful tall pine trees standing in rows, and he said, "Trees don't grow in rows all by themselves. These pines were planted here by somebody a long time ago." Elmer ate 4 more tangerines and then started through the pines to look for food and water. At last he came out onto a sloping meadow. He saw a brook winding its way down the slope, and he ran to take a long, cool drink. The dragon will be happy to see this, he thought. But I do wish I'd find somebody to tell us where we are and how to get home. He followed the brook up the slope into an old apple orchard. Some of the trees had rotted down to stumps, but they were planted in rows too. Elmer didn't see anybody anywhere, so he followed the brook back down the slope to a place where it made a pool of clear, cold water. He stooped down for another drink and found an old wooden bucket carved out of a trunk of a tree. This bucket hasn't been used for many years, he thought, as he scraped off the moss and the weeds. Maybe nobody lives here anymore. Elmer left the bucket beside the pool and followed the brook through the ferns and bushes until it turned into a swamp. Skunk cabbage and ostrich ferns all over the place, yelled Elmer, who was worried about the hungry, thirsty baby dragon. He quickly pulled up 6 skunk cabbages and ran back through the bushes to the pool. He dipped the bucket half full, threw in the cabbages, and hurried through the meadow to the pines and the dragon. He knew he couldn't go down the ladder with the bucket, so he crawled to the edge of the cliff and peered through the vines. There was the wilted baby dragon snoring in the shade. "Dragon, dragon, wake up! I've got water and skunk cabbages for you." The dragon slowly opened one eye and looked up at Elmer. Then he quickly opened the other and said, "Where?" "Right here in a bucket, but I can't bring it down to you. You'll have to let me pour the water down your throat. Ready?" "Ready," said the dragon, tipping back his head. Elmer aimed and poured, and the dragon drank. Then Elmer threw down the cabbages one by one, and the dragon caught each in the air, laughing and crying at the same time because he was so happy and hungry and thirsty. "That's all," said Elmer, "but there's lots more on the island, and ostrich ferns too. Can you fly up now?" "Ostrich ferns? I'd better be able to fly," said the dragon, stiffly flapping his gold-colored wings. He hobbled along the beach, gave a little jump, and fluttered up to the top of the cliff. "I'm not the dragon I used to be," he panted, "but I'll get you home yet, Elmer. Don't you worry about that." "Oh, I know you will." "I'm not the least bit worried," said Elmer, although he had secretly hoped to find people on the island and a boat going home and all sorts of good things to eat. All right, that was chapters 3 and 4 of Elmer and the Dragon. Hope you enjoyed it.